Hey guys, Lally here. In today's video, I'm going to talk you through 4 tips which I've used in my business to really help me plan the upcoming months, and has actually been responsible for some of the best months in my business, and has actually been responsible for me breaking through that threshold of earning 5 figures in a month in my business and then growing from there. So I want to just give this information away for free because it took me a long time to acquire this information from mentors to like find this information out myself and how to plan efficiently. So right now I have just come back from a week break, and I take a week break every single quarter. And the week after I come back from a break, I use this time for planning. I also use this time to really think about what's happening in my business and to also review the last quarter of my business. So right now, today, I am reviewing June, I'm reviewing July, I'm reviewing August as well. And the screens that you can actually see behind me is screen number 1 just here. On that screen right there, we've got long-term goals. So I've got my goals for, all of the quarters of the year, all of the months of the year. I've got like my 1-year plan, my 3-year plan, and I'm reviewing it right now. I'm checking what I've hit, what I've missed, what type of metrics I've missed, what went wrong, what went right, things like that. The screen on is on your right here, with the dark screen. This is the micro of what I am planning to do today, like the execution of the day. So it's important, first of all, principle number 1, before we even get into the 4 tips, is make sure if you're planning for your business, you are always planning long term, you're always looking at the short term, what you can accomplish today. Macro, which is the bigger picture, micro, which is the steps you have to take on a daily basis. Make sure you always do that. That's absolutely key. But let's get right into the tips now, the tips which helped me so much in my business. And these tips come in the form of questions you should be asking yourself when you are actually planning out your goals, planning out your things for your business. The first question you should be asking yourself is, am I avoiding the important? And this question is absolutely key, because too often I'm coaching a client, or maybe I'm speaking to a new prospect on the phone, and one of their key problems is they are just focusing all on the unimportant. They aren't doing the things which are very important for their business. And this really holds them back. And a good example of this is, say one of your goals was to get fitter, to be healthier. And rather than just going to the gym and cleaning up your diet a little bit, all these extra tasks which take up tons of time start to invade your life. So for instance, when I first started going to the gym, I was like, right, I need to, maybe work out a little bit at home to build some muscle up. I need to maybe get like a better t-shirt. I need to maybe read around on websites to learn how to exactly work out and what the things I should be doing. And before I knew it, 6 months had passed. I still hadn't even went to the gym and made no progress on my goal. And the same thing happens in entrepreneurship and businesses and creating your goals. So people have a tendency, I'll use myself as an example again. First time I ever tried to create a business, rather than going direct to the customers, I was setting up a website, I was getting business cards printed, I was making sure my logo was great. All of these little things didn't add to the bottom line. And again, 6 months later, loads of time wasted. And basically I'd focused on the unimportant rather than the important. So if you are reviewing your goals, go and check your goals right now, if this is the week to do it, or in the future. Go and check them and just see, have you achieved the goals you've set out for yourself? Have you achieved the goals you've set out for yourself? If you haven't, look back at your metrics. You should be tracking everything in your business. How many people you've interacted with, how well your adverts are doing, how well your content's doing. You should be tracking everything there. And if you go back and track that stuff, and then you find out that you've actually done insufficient amount of stuff to actually generate a result, ask yourself, am I focusing on the unimportant? And adjust your ship as quickly as possible if you think that it might be the case that you actually might have been concentrating on lots of unimportant things. It's only human nature to get pulled away from the stuff we are wanting to do. That is the question number one you should be asking. Question number two you should be asking is, as you know, business is a giant game. There is so much to learn. There is endless and endless amounts to learn. And if you look on YouTube, there is millions of hours of content. I'm giving you content right now. There is hundreds and hundreds of thousands of books out there. And the question is, are you learning from the right people? This is a question that you should be asking yourself. Warren Buffett, who I think he's in like the top 5 richest people of all time, he says the more you learn, the more you earn. So you should always be learning more and more and more stuff. And you should always also be reading, be continually trying to improve yourself. But I'll put a caveat on what he says. The more you learn, the more you earn. However, you should be learning from the right sources and the right people as well. So a good way to do this is if you're in a particular field, whether it's SEO, whether it's marketing, adverts, whether it's, I don't know, machine learning, data science, anything like that, you should be going on Amazon and looking at the top 100 books in that area of expertise and working your way down. And Amazon has this little thing where it's like, this book's rated as number 1 in this particular realm. So you should be working your way down, and because the benefit of that is there's thousands of people who will have reviewed these books and gave a star between 0 to 5 stars. And there's so much information on the planet, you actually have to try and be selectively focused and filter out the wrong information. And the best way to do this is let other people actually do it for you and make the mistakes themselves. So go to the top 100, the top 100 highest rated books in your field and start learning that way, or start learning about the skill that way, because you're going to find the things which are the highest rated and as a consequence probably the best source of knowledge for you as well. Now don't get me wrong, there is exceptions there where things might be highly rated and they're not very good, but overall, if something's pretty popular in terms of books, in terms of like a niche subject, it's probably a good place to start. So that's tip number 2, make sure you're learning from the right sources. Tip number 3 is, when you are creating your goals, ask yourself, what is the end goal here? Write it down and then reverse engineer it, okay? So for instance, let's just say for me, I help small businesses with like lead generation strategies over LinkedIn. So I'm just gonna create a scenario here, but let's just say I want 2 extra clients per month. What I would do is I'd reverse engineer that. I know what the end goal is, 2 extra clients. How many people do I need to have on sales calls to get 2 extra clients a month? Well, let's just say I'm closing at just under 50%. So I would need at least 5 people on that call to get the 2 clients at the end. And let's just say to get 5 people on a call, I need to have spoken to 20 people, right? So I know I need 20 people to get the 5 people on the call to get the 2 clients. And to speak to 20 people, loads of people are going to ignore me. So I need to reverse engineer this again. How many people do I need to connect with? How many people do I need to actually attempt to have a conversation with? Well, that might be like 100, 200 people. And then when you've got these numbers, these provisional numbers, and if you're tracking your metrics, you should already have these and you should already be able to look back on the past and predict from there. But if you're not, do it hypothetically. This is how many people you need to reach. And then what you can see is you end up with like this pipeline, this funnel of reverse engineering, and suddenly the specific goals, specific actions that you need to take at the start to achieve the goal at the end become pretty clear because you've reversed engineered it. So now all you can do is you can just focus on this end, connect with more people, start conversations, and as a byproduct of that, the end goal should achieve itself. So that is tip number 3. Ask yourself how you can reverse engineer these things, okay? Tip number 4 is something called learned helplessness. And this is a question you should definitely be asking yourself when you are actually creating your goals. This is probably one of the most important questions. So what is learned helplessness? Well, back in the 1960s, we didn't have so many rules about animal well-being. Unfortunately, we didn't. And in the 1960s, there was a scientist slash psychologist slash behavioral expert called Seligman, who basically experimented with dog behavior. Now, what you are going to hear next is actually quite a cruel study, and it would never get okayed in today's world, but it's happened. And what I want you to focus on, even though, you know, some of these terrible studies used to take place, is what the actual result was in the end, because it also goes over to humans as well. So in this Seligman study, he got basically a bunch of dogs. Now I'm going to cut some corners off the study. I'm going to summarize it a little bit and make it a bit more, easy for you to digest. He got basically a load of dogs in study one, and he was looking for something completely different. But basically what he did is he electrocuted all these dogs, just administered them all a small electric shock, kept them all in cages or like boxes, and the dogs were going wild. They were like trying to get out, because obviously it's quite an uncomfortable situation. Nothing was lethal there, but like it would have still been uncomfortable. And these dogs tried to get out of the cages. They tried to basically escape. They couldn't escape because there was no way out. And he administered these electric shocks in the attempt to find something else. He didn't find something else. Instead, what he actually found was what presented itself on study 2. And on study 2 is Seligman got the same dogs, and he put them in a cage which didn't have a top on. It was very easy to escape. The dogs could just jump over a wall. And he administered electric shocks to these dogs again. And you would expect the dogs to try to jump out of like the cage to just escape. But instead, what actually happened, which is pretty shocking, was the dogs just actually lay down. They had the whole freedom and choice to escape, but they just didn't. They lay down, they just accepted that they were just going to get electric shocked. And the experiment came to an end, and basically the term learned helplessness came out of this. And learned helplessness is essentially where we have learned to be helpless. And in situations where we have, free will, we have choice, right? And instead of actually choosing free will, we choose to create our own prison. So think about situations where you have maybe, you've got an exam coming up, and you've heard somebody go, I'll never pass this exam, I'll never pass this exam, even though exams just a skill. Or, a good one, for example, I've got a relative who has, every time they have an interview, they're always like, I hate interviews, I'm not good at them, I always fail them. And basically they seal their own fate, because learning interview techniques is actually a skill. It's not something you're either born with or you don't have. Instead, rather than realizing that they have full power over this situation, full control over this situation, they learn the helplessness instead. And you see it on multiple different people as well. People who maybe want to leave the job and they absolutely hate it, they hate everyone there, but instead they choose to stay rather than apply for other jobs. It's learned helplessness. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because when you are planning your goals, you always want to make sure they are realistic and that you can reverse engineer them. But at the same time as well, you don't want them to be the bar so low that it doesn't actually help your business, doesn't actually help you at all. So you want them to be somewhat of a challenge, and somewhat stretch you to achieve them. And when you are setting your goals, it's always a great thing to ask yourself when you're looking at your goals, am I being a victim of learned helplessness right now? Am I being helpless about this? Is this goal way too easy for me? And you'd be actually surprised at the amount of things that you put in your planners, the amount of things and activities and actions that you do throughout the day, which you think you just have to do, but actually that's just you being helpless, because this is a human condition. It's just something we as humans and animals do and learn as well. We aren't all perfect, and the best way to deal with this is to always check yourself. I have this trait in me as well, of learned helplessness sometimes. Other people have it, everyone has it. It's just one of those things but the only way to get around it is really just to check yourself. Am I putting myself in a box here? Am I being the victim of my own mind? Am I really limiting myself? Ask yourself those questions. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. To recap on those 4 areas, those 4 questions that you should be asking yourself when you are setting your goals. Question number 1, am I focusing on the unimportant? Question number 2, have I been learning enough from the right people? Question number 3, can I reverse engineer this And if I do, what does it look like? Question number 4 you should be asking yourself, possibly the most important one, am I being a victim of learned helplessness? Have I created the restraints in my own mind around my own goals? So I hope you really enjoyed this video, guys. Let me know in the comments what you thought of it. Also, if you want to see more stuff like this, then subscribe to the channel, only if you enjoyed it though. And if you want some free training on how to get leads through LinkedIn, I've also got a link in my description there. It'll point you to the free training of how to get leads on LinkedIn. LinkedIn right now, it's a very, very easy place to get leads and to get business from, particularly if you are either looking to scale or you are just starting out. Very, very easy to learn how to get leads from LinkedIn. So give that a look as well and have a fantastic week.